you up.
Not one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Linda's here today. That's nice.
Okay. Okay, great. We've got 6 participants, or 4 or 5 or something.
We
Got a
got.
bunch
I
of
thought
them.
Jay was coming too, but my son
Oh,
really.
there's
Well, let me
Linda.
wear glasses. Old now.
Linda.
Okay,
I haven't seen her in a while. Hi, Linda.
Good morning, everybody.
Doing good, thank you.
Good.
Linda's here too.
I am sorry I missed last week. I had a client appointment.
That's okay.
That's good.
Yes.
So did you, so you weren't, we did a class on Tuesday on the new changes. And so we wanted to switch gears. We went through the process. We have it recorded, Linda, if you want to see it, and also you, Susan. And also you, oh, Rachel came. And so, and it went really well. It was very, and actually Rachel said it very eloquently, where she says it was well or compartmentalized. And so I picked up on that, and thank you, because I wanted to structure in a way that was understandable on the new process of, you know, the compensation.
Yeah, it helped kind of just like section it off in my brain. It made it so much easier to, even this morning I had to walk a client through it. So it was like perfect.
Awesome, awesome, that's great. So what was interesting, and so what the reason why I bring this up, Linda, is because we wanted to switch gears a little bit, if you're comfortable with that today,
Yeah,
and talk
sure.
about articulating your value, what your presentation kind of looks like, what it sounds like, and what it feels like with the group, and then get different views and different kind of approaches to see what surfaces from this, so that everybody kind of gets their heads around it, because this is a major issue, and it is a major issue, because I'll tell you what happened yesterday, which you guys will find fascinating. And I hate oftentimes when realtors get into storytelling and start telling that, oh, this happened to me, and I had an open house once, but this is much different, right? This is a serious issue. And so, you know, a couple months ago, we started getting like emails from different things like NAR and stuff that was talking about like the 142 things to consider when articulating your value, right? Like, you know, I'll massage your back and comb your hair and all of that stuff, right? But certainly you're not going to whip out this list and start, you know, scripting it down. So yesterday, as Nick and I are on the road, I get a call on Susan's listing up in Black Forest. And the agent that's showing it today says, I would like to check to see what the compensation is for the showing tomorrow. And I said, okay, no problem. So I look it up and I said, okay, well, I hate to say it, but unfortunately in this event, the seller was able to negotiate, which is very rare in my business, but they were able to negotiate, and it is at 2.5%. Susan, you're not gonna like this response, and neither is any of you in this room probably. She says, what does she say, Nick?
She says, we'll see if you stay on the list.
Okay, we'll see if you stay on the list.
Right?
Wow.
That's mind blowing.
Right?
I
Really?
couldn't believe it.
On a $1.32 million listing. 2.5% co-op, and we'll see if we stay on the list.
Well, wait, who's this agent that's keeping the list?
Sotheby's.
Oh, damn.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah,
And she's gonna be she may be the difference in whether they buy the house or not.
Right.
she is the difference whether they buy the house or not.
That's not right.
And
No,
what
it's
is
not.
the word that brings to your surface in your mind? What is the word that is?
Crap.
Starts with an S. Don't say Nick. Starts with an S. You guys are realtors.
I'd say it's kind of unethical, but
What's the word?
Steering.
Steering.
Great. Good job.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's steering. That's just plain steering. And this is exactly what the concern was going to happen. Now we're going to have realtors steering their buyers away from these listings because they're not getting paid, right? Right, blatantly. Not even behind the scenes hiding it where they see it on the MLS and go, oh shoot, let me see if I can, you know, find some other stuff really quick. No, it's just straight up. I'm sorry, but I'm taking them somewhere else because you're not paying
The
me.
whole lawsuit was about.
Instead of
anyway,
getting
yeah.
her mind around it, you guys,
Yeah.
like getting her mind around the idea of, okay, well, you know, that's a $1.3 million deal. I mean, that's a $33,000 compensation check. Who cares about an extra $5,000 at that level? And
Mhm.
so in her mind, on that big of a sale, that's where her mind went. Now imagine what's gonna happen on smaller sales. If that went to that level at that big of commission, the compensation, where does it go from a 500,000 or 4 or 7? I mean, so this is very, very big deal. And so I wanted to call her back, but then I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna call her managing broker, which I did. And I spoke to Stuart, or no, I called Eric Scott. I have not spoken to Eric Scott yet. And I plan on it. We played phone tag yesterday, and I'm gonna ask him, what's his idea and his concept of strategy and what he's teaching his agents when it comes to this, and then I'm gonna let him explain it in a narrative fashion before I tell him Maggie at Sotheby's underneath you basically potentially steered a buyer away from a very expensive home. And I just wanted to make you aware of that as a managing broker so that you could be, very aware of it. I think it's going to be a lot of helping each other through this as leadership. So it dribbles down to, all the agents and where the agents get on grasp, which is why I want you guys to be the best at this. And that's why we're here today. Because, I don't want you guys feeling fearful that you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to walk this person past this, or scare the buyer and say, you're going to have to pay me. My first reaction, you guys, would have been, okay, no problem, thank you. On that one, I'd be like, oh, well, heck yeah, I'm in. But if it was a $400,000 deal, which I have a seller right now who's going to be buying $350,000 to $400,000, I'm going to sell their $310,000 house because they have a baby, and we're going to upgrade from a 750 square foot home to a 1,500 square foot home for the baby. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, in this case, it is 2 transactions. I historically, guys, never negotiate my compensation, but I would be willing to take less to help this young family out at first starter, wouldn't you guys, if that was the right event, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so, so in that, you have to consider that, and of course, discuss it with your managing brokers. I'm not here to tell you because each one of us have different brokers. Before you cut your compensations or negotiate your compensations, that's very important. You understand the policy of the company before you do that as an advisement. But reality is, my goal is ultimately going to be to get my compensation from the seller, one way or the other, just like it historically always has. Just like in the class we talked on Tuesday, historically, this hasn't changed. It's how you get it done has changed, and how transparent you are about that compensation and what it really means to the consumer. Now, another issue is Chris Jungen tells me the other day out of Boulder that a bunch of buyers are going past the buyer agent directly to the listing agent, which we knew was going to happen. So I'm telling you, everybody in this room, I would not put much effort in finding buyers. Let them come to you, absorb them, do what you can, be great. But I would be putting every dollar and effort into finding listings and becoming a listing professional, because even in what happens in the UK on how real estate works,
There's no buying agent.
there's
You
no
don't
buying
have a single
agent.
buying agent in the UK.
So I was.
What do they do? Just drive around until they see a sign and then call the,
Get on,
Do your own
there's
research,
websites.
do your own research, do your own websites. Yeah, so I bought 2 properties in the UK, you just deal direct with the selling agent.
So we have a really great individual here today. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Nathan, I'm here from Skyways. I've been here for 3 weeks, so I've met a few of you. And I'm putting together your buying, selling, renting guide for your end clients, which I'll go through.
We're going to talk about that here a little bit later, but he's from the UK, and it was fascinating. And also Peru does the same thing, guys. Peru, many other countries do not have buyer agents. United States created a buyer agency because they wanted protection for both consumer sides, and that was lots of sense. But now with this disruptive thing, I can assure you, you're going to see a shift where buyer agents may become less and less capable and less important in this process. So we're seeing very strong evidence that that's going that direction. So just be aware of that. Know that's going to be happening. But for these courses and what we're going through, these discussions, we need to focus on maximizing what we do have while we have it with buyers and being able to overcome these issues and obstacles so that we can at least make sure that while we are buyer agents, that we are optimized to be able to overcome the obstacle. Sound good? Okay, so in that, there's a couple ways that we discovered out of tremendous stress and sleepless nights of all these different approaches and different conversations, classes, lawyers speaking out their butts, and everybody else. And it was like, how do we overcome this compensation? If they're paying me 2.25% because the listing broker is so weak and inadequate and unable to gain a full compensation that makes sense to pay the other person to bring the buyer. No offense to the company with the K in front. I did a listing appointment yesterday at 6 p.m. I'm in a competition. I'm competing for this listing. I talked to the seller. Have you heard it? Are you aware of the new NAR stuff? Sellers negotiating our compensations. He wasn't really that aware of it, but he had heard something in the, just in fellow employees. And so I went through the whole process with him. And then towards the end, as I always do, guys, I'm very confident with who I am and what I need to pay the bills, right? And so I just let him know that, you know what, I'm just telling you, we need to be able to bring the buyer. And I explained the story that I just explained on the Susan listing to him, what happened. And there's two things that I always tell agents that make it work. And it's storytelling and stats. And I don't know if Linda has another one she'd like to add, but storytelling and stats are the two things that I believe are the strongest as being a realtor and getting the job done with the consumer. Meaning, it's great to relate back to great stories that relevantly connect to the situation so that they can get their heads around that it's been done before, you've witnessed it, you know how to navigate it, and then you can bring stats to it if necessary to show them how those stories, those experiences mean in numbers, mean in figures, mean in cost, mean in the experience itself. So stories and stats is what I call it, and I've stuck to that my whole career, and that's how I get jobs done. I meet a consumer, we get to an obstacle, I go through a story or an experience that I'm very familiar with that's relatable to that situation, and then if I need to bring in stats and information and data to confirm it, then I'll do that, and boom, we're done with the conversation. I don't know, does anybody else do something different? I'm looking at the wisest in the room here.
Pretty much similar. You go with what you've done in the past, what you continue with. What are you going to offer them?
Mhm.
What can you offer them, and you show them.
That's it, you show them.
Right.
Very
So Linda, you the same?
I would say the only other thing that I would add to that is I try to come into every situation without firm rules because I want to be empathetic to where people are in that process. I think the home selling process, well, they say it's the next to death. It's the most stressful thing people go through, So, I mean, I work with a lot of elderly clients.
I do as well.
They're making terrible life changes that they don't want to be making. They're leaving homes that they love, right? They're worried about their next step. So I try to spend a lot of time in the beginning really listening to what their fears are.
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to find ways to help manage them through that process and eliminate that fear.
But don't you, once you get to that fear, don't you relate it to a similar situation with the previous?
Absolutely.
That's the story. That's what I'm talking about. It's the.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you on stories and stats, JP.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's exactly right. I mean, I work with a lot of Asian adults as well. Same thing. I'm very empathetic, very, very careful, and very delicate. But when you go through that, and so I went through that with him yesterday, told him what happened with Susan's listing, his eyes got big. His instant response was, "Isn't that steering?" You guys, I didn't use the word steering to him. This is a consumer hearing that story and instantly saying, what did you say? What's that? What you got?
I pulled this up on another real estate site
2.5.
and see what they have here.
A
The-
bunch of 2.5s.
2.5s and threes and
Okay,
stuff,
okay, cool.
But that's just showing, so it's easy to find here. Sotheby's, I couldn't find anything on
Is
their
this
site.
Berkshire stuff? or
No, this is, this
Cutting
was
Edge.
Cutting Edge.
Okay, so Cutting Edge is now displaying their compensation on their listings on their website. We are as well. Just so you know, we're working out the bugs. We will have our compensations on our website soon, and that'll be uploaded and available to all of you agents, which you'll love. Because then you won't have to be bothered in the middle of the night by somebody saying, "What are you paying me?" But he said, "Isn't that steering?" And I thought, "Oh my God, this consumer, this is a seller." You guys, he never saw. The house I was in was the first house he ever bought. He's like 33 or something. Lucky sucker. And and it's a townhouse. It's his first purchase. How does he know the word steering? I mean, I was blown away. I said, I was shocked when he said it. I said, "And you know the word?" And so what was funny is I said, Nick said the same thing. When he heard that, Nick says, "Isn't that steering?" So just remember that it's going to be the lack of quality of listing agents that drive this into the dirt. No offense. It's going to be poor quality listing agents that aren't able to command a proper compensation that leads the other side to the water, the horse to the water. And so then we've got to be that leader of the horse and pull the cart along with us and say, "Okay, here it is, seller. If you want my buyer to buy your property, there's only a couple options here because I have to get paid. I'm sorry, I have to pay for my family. I got a daughter, I got all this stuff, right? I got to pay for stuff. I mean, I don't know how you expect me to do this for free." And I get it. You read the NAR stuff, watched a bunch of news and YouTube videos, and that's all fun. But in reality here, we all have to get paid. And so there's a couple ways I can do that. I can deduct more from your listing price, and you're going to take a cut anyway. I'm sorry, as you would have anyway. Nothing's changed there. Or I can raise the price of the house to cover my compensation, seller, if you're so damn determined not to pay me. And so, then what's the risk of raising the price we talked about? Clearly, it's an appraisal.
Mhm.
I don't think that's much of a risk. I do think in the beginning it's much of a risk because if you watch through COVID, because I've been through a couple of generations of real estate, over 2 decades. This guy's been through 42 decades. And
4 decades.
oh,
right.
sorry, 4 decades. Yeah, sorry.
Like
42 would be a little much.
Yeah, sorry. So
Yeah, you're like Father Time.
yeah. He invented real estate. Andy actually created.
He invented dirt.
But funny enough, Randy actually has pioneered a lot of the structure of real estate in his career, and thank you for that, by the way. He's been very, very involved. Some of you guys that know, he's very involved with NAR, with the board of directors, PPAR. He travels across the United States, Washington, goes all over as a defender for our rights, and does a lot of political things on a very, very large scale stage. And thank you for that, Randy.
Yep.
Um,
Let's do it.
and so here I am, I think like COVID. And COVID started in the first 2 to 4 months. I saw appraisers kicking back saying, "No, I'm not going to freaking, what do you think? Are you crazy? I'm not going to give you $60,000 above market value on this thing." And then all of a sudden, after month 4, it was like, "Oh God, we're going to lose our jobs as appraisers if we don't do this. We have to do this. The demand, the supply, the demand, the banks are approving these things. Everybody's saying do it, and I got to do it." And so now you've got appraisers appraising $60,000, $100,000, $200,000 above the past price just a year ago. That was within a short period of time. Here we are again, and then there's a situation where appraisers are faced with the same thing. Damn well in the next couple of months, appraisers are going to be like, "Okay, I got to do it. I got to add this agent's compensation to the top of this price to make it work. And the bank is going to approve it, and I got to make it work." And the bank's going to look at it and say, "Well, we're going to make it work because we got to get this sale and get that cash. We got to make that money. And so it's all going to work. It's all money that calls the decisions at the end of the day, guys. It is. So people can just speculate all they want, but money will always overcome everybody's crazy. So I think that's the 2 approaches personally I'm going to take initially. Now if that doesn't work, okay, I go and I say, "Okay, seller, you would have paid me anyway, you jerk. This would have already come out of your compensate or out of your bottom line. Previously, before you read those stupid things, watched YouTube. and you're not willing to do that, but you're also not willing to raise the price because your realtor who's inadequate is also now telling you that you need to worry about the appraisal, and it's a huge gamble. And, you know, if it doesn't go good, then now you're off the market for 3 weeks. And, you know, this greedy realtor that wanted this full compensation on the buyer side is screwing up your deal. You know, what do I do next? You know, what's my option, right? Like, what do I look at? Do I say, now I'm in the way of this buyer. Now I got to look at the buyer and say, buyer, I need you to pay me $5,000. I really need to get compensation. I need to get my compensation. I have to be able to pay my bills. I said that to the seller yesterday. I'm going to be looking at you, if you're my buyer, to pay me that compensation. He said, bye. He said, I'd fire you right there. I said, well, you could try to fire me, but I'd have you under buyer agency agreement, and I'd take it from you. I mean, no offense.
He may not sign it though.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Mhm.
And so, but a buyer agency agreement is blanketed. It's not specific to the property unless specified or requested by the buyer, right? It's a 6-month or a year agreement. We have up to a year because the lawsuit 10 years ago where a realtor had a perpetual listing agreement with a guy who sued the crap out of him, changed those rules, putting it down to a 1-year term. If you guys didn't know that, it used to be you could go as long as you wanted with a listing agreement. Now you put out 5 years. But that's now changed. So you've got, you know, anywhere from a day to 365 days to span out this buyer agency agreement, and it's wide open. You can say it has the area up there that says what are the criteria of the buyer, what's the logistics of the buyer, and you put that in there. I'm looking in El Paso County or Boulder or Parker, wherever I'm looking, and for a 3-bedroom plus, 2-bath plus, 2-car garage, with logistics you should put in there, and you should be detailed in that section. By the way, you shouldn't leave that just say simple looking in Colorado Springs. You should be enough in there logistically to have that in there. Now that could work to the buyer's advantage in this conversation, where they said, well, we've changed our mind. We're going to look for a 2-bedroom now. And, you know, you had in there 3 bedrooms. So my lawyer said, you know, your criteria, you know, you're going to see stuff like they're going to look at, they're going to be critiquing the contracts now. They're going to be careful now. And so yeah, I told him, I said, I'm going to see you. If I've shown you 32 properties and I've worked hard for you and I've done the research, the hours and hours of research, and I've worked diligently, and we had this discussion in the beginning, and now here we are where I'm saying we're going to need to find this $5,000 compensation. Do you have a credit card? And you say you're going to fire me. I'm sorry, I'm not letting you go. Now, if that's just my personal business, you guys do what you want to do. Now, if it's in the beginning, and I am at the beginning of it, and I've just put in 4 hours of my time getting to know the person, buying him a coffee and, you know, shaking his hand and a couple man hugs, then I'm probably going to be like, you know what, I get it. This is really tough. You know, either I'm going to just go ahead and accept the compensation that's being offered, or you know, is there anything you can do to help me? Do you have a couple $1,000? I'm going to try to negotiate some compensation. It's going to be, it may not be the 5. Maybe it's like, do you have 1,500 extra? Anything, right? Because there's a lot of ways that you're going to be searching for your compensation now. And you have to open your mind to it and not just be in a box and say, well, if these 2 things don't work and I do this and it doesn't work, then I'm just going to give myself away. And I'll keep pushing to try to find a resolution to paying your bills. I always said that if my daughter was hungry and I was broke, I think the last thing she would be thinking about is I love you. It would be more like I'm hungry. And so I need to be able to pay for my child and my house and my bills and my taxes and all the stuff. And so I just have to go in that, remembering that, okay, when I go into this and being strong, which is why I'm not going to be personally telling the buyers in the beginning of the conversations, as I said, like Rachel in the class, be careful not to engage in the buyer when you're first meeting with them and starting to say things like, oh, are you familiar with the NAR lawsuits, and our commissions are extremely negotiable now, and sellers are usually paying around 2.25 or 2.5, and so, you know, don't worry about it. We'll, you know, it'll all work out and all this stuff. Like, if you start planting those seeds from the beginning of your conversation with a buyer, they're going to say, well, then you're going to be willing to take 2.25. You're going to take 2.5.
Okay.
So So what I'm saying is this, stay strong with your 3%. Learn how to defend your 3%. Yeah.
With the 3%, if we can't get the 3% for whatever reason, do we still owe Berkshire Hathaway as if we got 3%?
No.
No, so
No,
we
great question.
take the 2.5 and then
You
you
do.
just get the percentage of the 2.5
You
to
do.
Berkshire Hathaway?
What I would do is, if I was you guys, I would, before I would give in automatically, some people are like, well, I'm just gonna give in because a little bit's better than none. That's ridiculous. I would reach out to your managing broker first, immediately, and say, boom, this is the situation. I've tried this, this, and this, and this. None of it's worked. I'm stuck. Any advice, right? Anything I could do here? I mean, what does it take you? Step off to 5 minutes. Hey, I'll be back. I'll call you later. I have an appointment. I'll be right. I'll call you as soon as I'm done with the appointment. Call your managing broker. Hey, man, this is what's happening. This is what I'm going through. And maybe we'll step in on your behalf, right? Maybe we'll step up to the plate and say, let me have your buyer's information. I mean, we're here to help you guys, right? We're here to step up and be the heroes, right? You guys aren't used to using us, and that's unfortunate. But I can tell you, if you use me, I'll be there for you at the moment you need me, and I will step in gear and I will call that buyer and say, let's do a three-way conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what we've got here. Let's see if there's a way that we can pull this together in a communal way, in a very comfortable, very stylish, professional way, and see if I can pull some extra money out for you, right? Like you guys are paying a 6% fee to that Warren Buffett, lucky him. But you're also paying admin fees and you're paying caps in some events, and that means you're paying the brokerage, and that means you're paying me. And so I have a job to do too, and rely on that. So does Marcus, Cheryl, and Chris. I mean, dang it, they're not just there to, be some dude in the back or some chick doing stuff. Like, I mean, no, use us. So that's what I'm saying. I'm truly trying to get in your guys' head. Stop at that point. Don't give up. Try to just use every source you can, because that's where we are now. That's where we are. And if you don't have that powerful ability yourself to overcome it, to find a way, and no matter how great you are, it doesn't work, then try to rely on resources. That's why we're all together. We're a network. The one thing that I really have realized this past couple of years more than I ever did as a Berkshire Hathaway agent is that we are a powerful team together. On our own, we're an EXP agent. No offense, EXP. On our own, we're a Redfin agent. On our own, we're a Keller Williams agent. Well, no, sorry, you're an educated on your own agent at Keller Williams. But most of the other brands, I mean, I can do that. Sony talks bad about Pioneer, and Mercedes talks poorly about Toyota, even though they're great vehicles, both of them. But at the end of the day, guys, like, I'm saying that you're not on your own. At Berkshire Hathaway, you're part of a network, a powerful network. Not only do you have access to the Resource Center and agents all over the world and the Berkshire Hathaway network of all levels that you guys have probably never even attempted to explore, but then you have your own network within the 152 agents within the NCB Northern Colorado Broker umbrella. I mean, there's 5 owners with tremendous knowledge and skills. Chris is just a brainiac. If you've never talked to Chris up in Boulder, he's a freaking brain, way smarter than me. I'm definitely more personable. He's definitely smarter in logistics. And so he's got his talent, I got my talent. Cheryl, she's brilliant. She's a marketing queen. Her experience is vast. Marcus, I don't know him yet. I don't know much about the guy. I think he's smart, but he's also focused on his own team. And that's not an offensive thing to Marcus. I just think he's a new owner and he's learning his thing, but I think he has probably vast talent as well. And then, who did I miss?
Don.
Don
Mobita.
Yeah.
Don Mobita is old school too, 36 years, veteran realtor, just really good at what he does, real logical, sensible, no BS kind of guy. And so that's what I'm saying. You guys have a tremendous resource. You're not just working like with one small company that, has one person. You guys have a vast network of people to say, look, if I don't feel like I'm getting comfort from that, or maybe I talk to JP and he just speaks too fast and I don't get it, reach out to one of the other owners and we'll stop. And we're talking a lot about this, so we're really in tune with it and we'll help you through it. Sorry to belabor that, but I want to impress upon you guys that you have us. And that's why we're here, is to help navigate the deep waters. And like where it's really like you're scared and you're like, oh my God, like I just fell off my jet ski and there's nobody, I can't see the jet ski, right? Like, and I'm scared out here. Like, that's where we are. And so, so I implore you to please reach out to us for these. This is a very hard thing. So after I was done with him and I explained the steering and thing, I said, so do you want to negotiate my commission? I mean, my compensation. Would you like to negotiate my compensation? Because I'm ready to do it. I'm excited. Let's have a debate, right? He says, absolutely not. He said, absolutely not. He said, JP, you get paid clearly what you get paid. He goes, I just need my property sold. Please charge what you need to charge. I said, thank you. The $1.1 million one I sold recently that I sold in like 3 days, I did the same thing. They were told to negotiate. The referral person that sent them said, you need to negotiate your compensation with the realtor. And then I went through all my marketing guys. By the way, what I did, just so you know what I do, is I go through my whole listing presentation that I built from my heart, my 23 years of experience. Nick and I spent 6 months building out a beautiful listing presentation. And 6 months, we really worked hard on it. We did a buyer rate presentation and we did a listing presentation. And I present that beautifully. I open it up. And by the way, it's customizable too. We open it up to every NCB agent. Everybody has a copy of it.
NCB?
Northern Colorado Brokers. And that's the DBA, using the franchise Berkshire Hathaway, Northern Colorado Brokers, NCB. And so, so we built this custom listing presentation. I think Linda has her own listing presentation, I'm sure. You can get your listing presentation off of the Resource Center. It's a beautiful, customizable, editable listing presentation. You can plug somebody's name in and print out as many pages of it you want, get familiarized with it, learn it, understand it, and present a beautiful presentation. Because we're gonna have to articulate what? Our value. And part of articulating your value is having information and presenting properly and as a professional. And this days of this old school, no offense, because I did it too, of running off the cuff of your butt, I believe is gonna start diminishing. I believe going into a listing presentation with nothing in hand, just looking them in the eye, the days of that's going to fade faster than you can imagine. And for the agents that are ignorant to believe that, oh, I've been doing this for 15 years this way and it's worked brilliantly, you're right, it will work a few more times. But I think now it's going to be articulating everything about yourself and your profession and putting it into a presentation layout that really stops them in their tracks from asking for a negotiative debate. And that's exactly how I do it, which is exactly why my sellers always say, no, JP, we're not. They're fearful to ask me. By the time I'm done with my presentation, they're fearful to ask me to reduce my compensation almost every time. 9 times out of 10, they're fearful. There's always the one that's like, well, I mean, could we talk about that a little bit? What does that mean? And what if you like bring both the buyer and the seller? And what if you double in it? Like, are we going to get a discount then and stuff? And I look at them always and I say, well, no, because at the end of the day, one, I've always considered my compensation non-negotiable, even though now I'm forced to tell you it's non-negotiable. And two, what would have stopped me from bringing that very same buyer to another competing listing to get paid my full compensation so I can pay my bills? I'm bringing them to you. So instead of bringing them somewhere else, you shouldn't penalize me for bringing them to you. Would you like to do that? Would you like to penalize me for? Because if so, then I should probably at least show them a few more options. I should probably take them out in the market and just show them a few more properties before we commit to this one. Because I know they love your house, your property, but I should probably do some due diligence here. Take them out, show them a few more properties, and then if they come back, then okay, great. And if they don't, then it's okay. We'll wait for another agent to come along and we'll give them a reduced compensation. How's that? You just got to have those straightforward and people are like, oh, that's harsh and rude and stuff. No, it's me earning my income. I'm sorry, I get paid to do a job here, and I'm not going to reduce it because you see me as less valuable because I just brought you a buyer in 2 days. As a matter of fact, you should be paying me more. I mean, I just sold your house in 2 days when the neighbor sat for 3 months next to you. So not to continue justifying the value, but what I'm saying is that listing presentation is part of what you should have to present to show articulated value. And whether you create one through ours or one through the Resource Center or build one from scratch, you should have something that legitimizes your who you are, what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be providing. And it's the same to the buyer. When you meet with the buyer, you meet with them, you say, hey, these are all the things that I'm going to provide with you. My first page says, thank you so much for meeting me. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. The second page articulates the ethics, the standards, the integrity, the honesty, the trustworthiness, the negotiative skills, all the beautiful things you can expect from me on a thesaurus level. And then the next ones should be stuff like, hey, this is about what our company's about. Berkshire Hathaway is a trusted brand, and consumers can know that they're trusted. They're working with a trusted, great realtor that's got a high competency and a high educated level when they're working with a Berkshire Hathaway agent. And then the next page can go into, these are all the things you can expect. Me to negotiate heavy on your behalf. Me to show you as many properties as we need within reason. Me to help you, find exactly what you're looking for, and all the things that make it work for a buyer. You should have a buyer presentation. If you want to see ours again, we'll email it to you again, just upon request. So when I'm done with that, that's when I'm going to look them in the face and say, hey guys, now let's go through it. And I'm going to go through that with the buyer, and I'm going to start going through this stuff. Go, okay guys, let's go through your buyer agency agreement, because are you feeling comfortable with everything I'm going to provide for you, kind of thing I'm going to go through. And then they're going to say, yeah. And then, and I'm like, okay, you guys understand about the compensation is negotiable. I'm going to say that 42 times in this conversation with you, buyer, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And, but let's go through the buyer agency, and then I'll start going through the buyer agency, and I'll go through them. But by the way, there could be a chance that at some point you guys could owe me some compensation. And they're going to say, well, what does that look like? And I'm going to say, well, it's going to look like this. It's going to look like, well, I see a bunch of realtors that I just pulled up EXP and a couple others, and it looks like they're paying 2.5 and 3.0 and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, so it's bouncing all over the place, Mr. Buyer, Miss Buyer. So in your price range, let's talk about that, right? You're qualified up to 400,000. Let's do the math, because it's about stories and stats. So I'm going to talk to them. First, going to go through my presentation. Then I'm going to start the buyer agency, just kind of giving you a guy how I'm doing it. Then I'm going to go through buyer agency. Okay, you're qualified up to 400,000. If it's 0.5%, that's about $2,000 difference, right? 2,000 bucks. So guys, the worst case scenario is you just throw my $2,000 on one of your credit cards. So you guys got a credit card, you could do something like that kind of thing, right? I mean, I'm going to have that conversation. They're going to say, oh, well, yeah, I guess that's not so bad, right? It's going to be when it's the bigger numbers, right? It starts to affect. So let's say, all right, now it's a $650,000 buyer, because what the average price sells like 482 here, and and then we're seeing, so okay, it's a 650, and now it's a 1%er, so now it's 6,500. Yeah, that's a number. That's a real number. So then I'm gonna, okay, guys, like, okay, your exposure is going to be somewhere around $6,500. So we need to be aware of that when we're out looking for properties too, guys. So it's about your qualification factors. Jay Gupta has been in business for 50 years. I had his discussion with him the other day, and it was fascinating to me, because he says, okay, JP, it's basically like in the narrative form of what he said, it's basically just the qualifying factors. Aren't they only qualified up to 650? Right? Are you going to be showing them houses over 650 if they're qualified to 650? No. Now you do get some buyers that start to say, well, we've been looking at houses at 630 and 650 or 675 and 700. Do you think you can negotiate it down for us? You're going to have those, and I'm going to say, no, guys, we need to stay within your framework, because you're going to be highly disappointed if you get in there and you can't get anywhere close to that kind of a savings. Well, surely they'll come down. We see the market's soft. That's their next response. And then I'm going to say, no, they surely won't come down in all cases. And you could take 100 conversations to get to one that might. And that's not me as an agent. There are EXP agents that would love to do that for you. No offense. And I mean, it is what it is. Do you want me to help you, or do you want somebody that's going to help you on an investor mindset? Because you're talking about being an investor. Are you guys trying to buy a home for your family in the next couple months? Are you trying to take 6 to 8 months to work with an investor to try to save yourselves an extra $20,000 to $30,000? Because if you're telling me you need to buy a house in the next 60 days, then don't go down the path of looking at homes at 675 and 695 if you're qualified to 650. So you have to be able to understand how all those complex things work to bring them back to the ground, right? Because they start to float into the air. And so, so they can get back to the 6,500 thing with them and say, okay, guys, we just need to consider this when we're out looking at $650,000 houses, that there could be a chance that there could be a qualifying deficiency or an exposure to you of $6,500 additional. Okay, so just keep that in mind when we're out looking. And they said, well, how does that work? And then of course I'll talk to them about raising the price of the house, lowering the offer, getting my compensation, and letting them know at the end of the day, guys, you may have to have a credit card. Well, you're buying $650, you can afford that. Come on, joking around. And then there's got to be a way through it. But at the end of the day, will I walk away from it over $6,500 on a $650,000 house? I mean, I don't know, guys. I think not. I'm probably gonna, but I'm sure gonna give it everything. That's still a $16,000 co-op compensation. The heck of a good check. You know, it'd be 21,000 or so. You know, if it was proper in my mind. But at the end of the day, no, it'd be less than that. 2%. There's a $13,000, so it is a big cut. You know, so you got to make that decision and have a discussion with your managing broker about how that looks if you're going to bend your will and go to the bottom line. But that's what I would do. Does everybody see what I will do? That's my style. That's how I'm going to do it. What's anybody else's style?
JP, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could we take a deposit up front if they wanted to start shopping above their budget?
No, I don't think we can take deposits up front. Good question, but I don't think you get paid upon success in this business. And so the contract clearly states that.
You know, I think too, before you show it, you're gonna know what the compensation is before you write the contract.
That's right.
So that's a discussion you'd have with them at that point too.
That's right. That's
And
right.
say, here's where we are. Should we move forward or look for something else?
Just like yesterday, she predicted that that was going to go very well already without even trying to defend her value, right? And so you've got to have that discussion with them up front. You know, when you get to that house, you prepare them through all this process, right? All the logistics, presenting to them a presentation, articulating your value, going through the buyer agencies, all the logistics. When you get out and have the fun part, which is shopping, home shopping, and you find that house that they get all sparkly-eyed about, that's when you have that conversation to say, you know, okay, guys, you're exposed. You know, we have some exposure here. I just looked online; those suckers are paying me 2.5. So on your behalf, which is thank God they're at least covering 2.5 of your 3%. So we got most of it covered, but we've got a little bit of exposure here. And I use that word exposure is the word. I'm just saying, I think that's the word. Because that's a professional kind word to use to say you're kind of exposed to some additional cost. And so you can say it in a lot of ways, obviously, but that's going to be my word going forward. And then,
I'd put it in the offer.
Yeah, put it in the offer. That's exactly correct.
Yeah, if they're gonna pay you X compensation, you can ask for the other balance.
That's right.
And just put it in the offer. And probably, if it's a good offer, you think the seller's gonna go, okay, it's $4,000 or something,
Right.
but here I got a good buyer, I'll pay it.
Right. I think most sellers are going to do it, like you say. I think historically, as long as the realtor, the listing agent can get themselves to a quality level of conversation, I believe that the seller can overcome it. But a lot of it, guys, 40% of transactions, the stats are 40% of transactions can fall apart prior to closing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
truly,
it's not on the commission.
it's not on the committed
No.
compensation.
Right.
And I believe that most of that 40% is because of poor quality real estate training.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I say to my sellers is I know it might sound counterintuitive, but I want the very best broker sitting across the table from me that I can find for you. And
That's
then
it.
they're always like, but wait, Linda, I said, no, you don't understand. Getting a house under contract is one thing. Getting a house to close, that's a totally different ballgame.
That's
And
it.
that process requires a 5-star broker for it to work to everybody's benefit.
That's
and,
right.
And you want to pay people who are worth their value.
That's
because
right.
that's how you get to closing. And
I
people,
just talked to
people,
somebody else.
people get that.
Yeah, they get that. And I just talked to another really good pro broker yesterday. He said the same exact, almost verbatim what you just said. They said exactly that to their client. They say their clients, guys, you want a pro realtor on the other side. Like, I vet them. I look into them. I pay attention to who they are if I don't know them already. And I want to see if they're quality, because that quality of realtor drives it to the closing. And why? It's not they're manipulating. That's not it. And I'll play good and bad with clients. I'll tell them it's not about manipulating and conning people. It's about, you want the quality of the experience of the professional and the education to back the transaction through all the way to the closing. And that takes somebody who's really strong.
And you also want good brokers know how to manage their clients through the process, because often it's a bad client that blows the deal. And the broker, isn't strong enough to manage them through the process.
Well, you said it earlier when you said, and I use that a lot. You and I have a lot in common. I love it. I always tell consumers that, real estate transactions factually are stressful and anxiety next to losing somebody to passing to death. And when you say that, that's a big impact. So the anxiety and the stress that comes from real estate transaction can be just as traumatic as losing somebody to passing. And so, I have an older couple, aging adult couple right now that they're frantic and they've got anxieties all over the place because of an earnest money check that hasn't been turned in. And yesterday, because of me, I was like, guys, just relax. Let's just be calm and know that on our side, we're okay. I'm here to help you through this and work the logistics. Even if I've got to do the job for the other agent on the other side, you are in trusted hands. And when the inflection of your voice, what you say, how you say it, everything matters in that moment. So that's what it is. It's about managing and trusting it. So you're right. You put it in the offer and you say to the seller, I'm bringing you a legitimate buyer. And you call the agent. And guys, how many times I have even training my awesome agents sometimes, Chris does it. I mean, I've done it a lot over the years, where they'll run into an issue and they'll call me and I'll say, okay, do this, this, and this, and this, and say this and this, and it's going to get exactly this reaction. And it does 98% of the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I do the same thing with the other agent is what I'm saying. When I'm working with the other agent and they've got a seller in this situation, I'm going to be doing everything I can to not manipulate that agent, but to plant seeds in the conversation to say, hey, do you have another buyer right now? You don't have a competing offer? You don't have any? No, we don't have any competing offers. Okay, so what I hear you saying is we're the only offer that your seller has right now? Yes, it is. Okay, well then if we're the only offer your seller has, how long do you expect to wait for another offer? Well, I don't know. Well, what's the average days on market in your neighborhood? I looked it up. It looks like about 120 days is what I'm seeing on average right now. I mean, 60 to 120 days on market over there. So if that's the case, you've been on the market for 30 days. And so is your seller comfortable with spending a mortgage payment to save the very money that I'm asking for if it in fact takes them another 2 months to sell? You have to bring it home, because not all realtors are intelligent. No offense, they're just not. And so you have to sometimes walk them through the very things that make logical sense so they can take that information back and feel like the hero. They're like, hey, seller, I'm excited because I just remembered what that realtor told me on the phone. I didn't think about it. And they're like, hey, check it out. I did some research, my seller. And I know we talked about this in the beginning when I did the CMA and I did all the stuff, but I was just kind of curious, and so I jumped back online, because they're going to pretend they did it, right? And I was noticing it takes like 60 to 100 days and stuff to sell over here. And we've been on the market 30 days. I just wanted to talk to you about what that looks like. And we have an offer in hand. And so if it takes us another 2 months, what is your mortgage payment? Well, it's like $3,800 a month. Okay, well, if they're only asking for $6,500 additional, and if you're at $3,800, that means you're at almost $8,000 if it takes us 2 more months to sell. And that's just your mortgage payment. Like, that's not any other bills, right? And you guys told me you guys would like to sell sooner or later because you already have your house in Arizona. And they're like, yeah, that's true. Well, then does $6,500 really hurt you? And so you're gonna actually be able to plant seeds to get the results, is what I'm saying. You just gotta be able to do it in a way that you know that that the other agent will most likely want to be the hero and use that information you provided, or try to do something different in a twist, because they wanna make the sale too, they want the money too. And so try to help them. That's what we're here to do, is talk about how this psychologically and the dynamics of each level and how we get past the obstacles. And that was all that, right?
I think we still need a value proposition going in for the buyer.
Your presentation.
Yep.
Right? That's what I'm saying, right? That was the thing. Articulate your value is the key.
And I don't know if everybody in here has one.
I know, that's what I'm saying. If you don't have one, you should have one. And if not, request. We would love to share ours. We spend a tremendous effort and energy putting it together. And it's beautifully done. And we can help you craft it. We've offered our operations manager, Nick, many times to say, hey guys, if you want to spend 2 hours with Nick and go through and build out your presentation, you have to schedule it with him. You can't just call him random. Hey, you got 2 hours right now, bro. You got to schedule it with Nick, but we're here to help, is what we said, and we offered it to all of NCB, not just to our agents here locally, but we offered it to all of NCB. We want to be a great resource for our entire network, and so and it's not to take over and be like Scott Norby in Denver, where I'm trying to recruit you guys. I don't want you guys. I love you guys, but I don't want you. And so you're with the people you belong with. But at the end of the day, we want to be powerful. We want our entire network to be powerful. And so yeah, we have a beautiful presentation. If you want to go through it, we'll refine it. We'll help you build it. We'll modify it. And then we use the beautiful hardback book. Can you grab a copy? Yeah. So I haven't shown some of you. We use a hardback book cover. It's a beautiful presentation. Many times I go into the house after 3 weeks later and it's still on their coffee table. It's like this beautiful piece they have now. Or they've left it on the counter as part of their, I see them open it up and leave it next to my display on their listing and stuff. Like I think this is like this cool piece. So it really is effective, but that's how I present. And when I started with Stuart Scott in luxury, Stuart Scott had a listing presentation, and that's how he did it. Stuart Scott made $1.2 million a year just in his own income, guys.
Here's the full booklet of a buyer presentation, and there's the new design.
$1.2 million. This is the new.
That's the new
with the new design, with the new logo, and it's really hard. You put it into a heat machine. So you put your pages in, and you put them in. You put it in a heat machine, and it seals it. And it just does a beautiful job. And then here's our presentation. It's not very long. It's easy to understand. It's a nice cover letter. It talks about your attributes as an agent. It could be about your past if you're newer. It could be your bio and your stuff, my cells. It goes into my cells. And then we created what's called a roadmap of what they can expect, articulating our value, showing everything they can. This is buyer stuff, guys. Everything they can expect through the whole process. This is all custom done. This was not printed off the resource center. Nick did a beautiful job. Thank you. These are all the points, the 12 points of why to use me. Why to use me as your broker. All about the trust of the brand. The different things that they can expect through the process, right? Showing properties, all the things they can expect. Money, what we do to be trusted, to trust with their money. Hold their earnest money and put their earnest money in the right spot. Once they get acceptance, things are delivered. They're all the way to their walkthrough, everything they can expect from their process, all the way to closing. And then in the end, my promises for signature service. And so this is a buyer presentation. Stuart Scott made $1.2 million a year in his own business. I was an assistant to Kathy Wade. Kathy Wade made about $12,000 a month. She ran by the seat of her ass. I loved Kathy Wade. She was stylish. They both had been in business the same amount of time. She made $12,000 a month. He made $100,000 a month. And I thought, what the hell's the difference? There was two components. Stuart used a listing presentation and buyer presentation, and he used a database, which is why we train the hell out of KV Core, because it's a powerful database, and we use these two things. These two things, guys, I made $116,000 this month. I made $116,000 this month. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it because I use these systems, and I've used them consistently each year, every year, with every client. And it's about processes and systems, which is where this industry is now being elevated to. It's being elevated to processes and systems and professionalism and education and value. And so, yes, this is what you guys need if you want to play big ball or play any ball, really. Because at the end of the day, the buyer's going to start walking past you when they meet you, and you say that they're going to have to possibly pay you $8,000, and they say, you know what, we're going to look on Zillow and call the agent ourselves. We have to pay that crazy coconut $8,000. So you got to be able to capture their love and attention and their loyalty from the gate out. And that's going to come in the form of your articulated value, like you said, through the presentation, and through the buyer agency agreement and the compensation agreement, and your ability to negotiate on your own behalf and be magical at it. Any other input on that?
No, I think everybody needs to get their own together quickly, because now we have to do it.
I was just
We
gonna
have,
say, Nick, you better get ready. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
calling for appointments.
Compensation agreement that the Colorado Bar Association did. Do we have a copy of that?
And
we
then
can use?
CTM one.
Is it in there now?
Yep.
Okay.
But you said you have to be in the or.
Yeah, well, you have to be in the files. I mean, it's in there, but you have to be in the actual transaction to pull it. You can't just go to the front page where it says.
Okay, that's
trade
probably what I
contract.
was looking.
That's why you're missing it. Yeah, you have to be in your actual full file for the transaction,
Okay.
whether buyer or seller. So yeah, so what's some more input? What's anybody else's thoughts and their approaches that they feel that they can help articulate your value or do something that you feel is different or unique from this conversation?
JP, I just want to add, Jessica here. I'd like to say instead of I have to, that I get to. You know, we have such a great state, so beautiful, and just keeping that attitude of service. And so just working on articulating certain phrases and looking at that over and over again so you can
We don't have to
rediscover.
do this, we need to do this. It's a good thing.
Oh,
That's
good.
what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's very nice. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I have hearing problems. So
Sorry,
I'm like,
Jessica.
I didn't understand it either, but.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
can
so
you hear me?
so that's old guys. That's old dudes. Thank you very much, Jessica. I mean, we're definitely here to get you guys through this. I think it's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge for even me in some cases. But I'm here to be in this business. This is who I belong as. I belong as a realtor. This is my career. This is what I've chosen. This is who I'm identified as. And I am not willing to sacrifice or surrender or to say, oh no, this is beyond my capabilities. This is certainly not beyond my capabilities. This is another transition of logistics that I'm here to learn and embrace and actually like and enjoy it. I like negotiating. You should like negotiating. That's what you are. You're a negotiator. You're a competent, educated negotiator. So embrace it, right? So yeah. So let's bring in some things we're working on. And just to give you guys a narrative, because we're at the end of the class today, we've got a few minutes for Nathan here.
Yeah.
Daniel. We've been working on a magazine this last 3 weeks with him. It's a beautiful magazine. We get as many prints as we want. We encourage you guys to pass them out, hand them out to your clients. And it's a resource guide. It's a beautiful resource guide. And I'm gonna put you right there. Yeah. There you go.
Sounds good.
Thank you, dear. And so he's gonna walk you through what this is. You can do a personal branded, just to give you an idea, it's like $199 to personally brand it with your own brand, picture and bio and all kinds of stuff. It's much more, or much less expensive than, what's that magazine I do?
Haven Magazine?
No, the other one. Reminder Media.
Yeah.
You guys get pounded by Reminder Media. I'm sure all of you. And so that's very expensive. If some of you guys, and you have to pay for each edition and stuff. This is actually supported by our network of contacts. So what we did is we gave him a list of all of our contacts. He went to all of them and got them to support the cost of this magazine. And then you guys can get it free, pass it out to your clients. You can brand it. Well, $199 and brand it. He's going to go through that. I'm sorry, I'm doing his job for him. But it's beautiful. It's stylish. It's branded Berkshire Hathaway. It's a quality piece. And it's just another way to articulate your quality and value kind of stuff. And so we went ahead and welcomed them to do this because we wanted to have more things to hand out, to leave with the client, to say, hey, you've got this, this, and this, just more stylish pieces of it, stuff to make yourselves elevated.
Perfect. Thanks, JP. Nothing else to say.
Done,
You've done
yeah.
everything. That's all good. Yes, I've been here for 3 weeks setting this guide up. We have a company called Skyways. I've been in business for 15 years, doing these guides for brokerages all around the country. The big point from your perspective here is that we're only going to work with you guys here in Colorado Springs. That sets you and elevates you above every other agent now in town. It's a big USP, it's a big unique selling point from our perspective. It helps you guys grow and adds some serious value to your offering to your clients. Each one is unique and specific. So I've got one from Florida here, one from Texas that I've been using this week. I've finished now, so I'm going to leave them all with you guys. You can flip through them. Because they're unique, specific to every location, we really want some input from you guys. I mean, you're going to go through JP. JP has the final sign off on all of the content that goes within it. We've already had some really good ideas, but any ones are perfect. It has, sections around brokerage, so introducing the brokerage, who you guys are. And then the core of it is around the buying, selling, and renting as well is going to be an aspect here. Then there's legal part of it, financial part of it. For your clients, there's checklists, so it tells them if they're moving out of a property, 3 weeks before moving, what they need to do, 2 weeks, 1 week, a little countdown. We're going to have neighbourhood reports in there, so for your buyers out there, it's going to be a big tool. We do lots of research in each unique location. So understanding what your return on investment might be in Colorado Springs if you put in a new roof or hardwood floors or an outside entertainment area or a swimming pool, all these kinds of things that are all built into it. So that gives you that's like a breakdown of what we found in that's Florida, what luxury property buyers are looking for, 26% want a swimming pool, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a tool that we really want you to work with and engage with, and if we've got around 6 weeks to complete the design now.
Mm-hmm.
So any ideas you've got, I suppose JP just put them through to JP. He can put them through to our design team. We can throw them all together and try and really make it as as successful as we possibly can. Actually, we've done these, all over the country. The only state we've not been to is Alaska. So we've been everywhere.
So is this used more as a left behind piece once you meet with somebody?
Yep.
Do you make a new one every month or every whatever for the city, or is
It's every year.
Every year.
Okay,
Every year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
every year.
all the resources that we gave them, guys, are all their contacts on the resource center. So like our plumbers, our electricians, all that. So a lot of these guys, our contacts on the resource center will be in here. So the people you guys are already used to using out of our resources are here. And so you'll be able to say, this is not only a great resource guide from our local network of resources. So if you need a plumber, roofer, and stuff, they're in here most of the time. If not, call me and I'll get you somebody that you may need specifically that's not in here. But it does have a beautiful checklist, like he says, like moving home, handy checklist. It gives them stimulates them as they're starting to go through the process, and just really gives them great information. It's a very beautiful magazine. Like I say, it's free to you guys.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend any money on
Limited print,
this.
So yeah.
I mean, we put all the effort in, and the money, was provided by our contacts and
Exactly.
resources. This was a great opportunity to build something beautiful that you guys now get to hand out.
So to do the self-branding, the $199, is that a flat rate and then you still get as many as you want just with yourself on it?
Correct. Yeah. So what that would look like from your perspective is on the first page as you open it up, the bottom section of it would have your photo, your contact details, maybe a little bio, depending on what you're after. For $199, then that's unlimited throughout the year. We do batch prints. So I told JP, so we send 1,000 out to begin with. Depending on how many personalised guides, that might be slightly more. And then as you're running low, you just get back in touch and we send more out.
That's so cool.
And then nice. And Rachel, we're gonna have it to where it'll identify, like on the brokerage level, it'll identify that we have a Canyon City office, Florence office, 2 Colorado Springs offices, for example. I want to work with them to build a map on all of our offices and stuff. So
Okay.
it'll be conducive for your area as well. So I would encourage you for tiny ass $199. Sorry to cuss, but this is ridiculously. I mean, we've really put in the work to put something beautiful at almost no cost. And these kinds of things would cost you, Jesus Christ, $15, $20 to send to somebody all day.
Mm-hmm.
So this is real deal. So just Yeah, reminder
Better
to
than a
the
business card.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
better than a business
Yeah.
card.
So anyway, just trying to do things that really help bring and elevate the articulated value, because I knew this was coming. Like, for months, we've been talking about the NAR stuff. We've all been disorientated. And so I wanted to do some things and capture some things that really just set us into another level. And this was one of them. So thanks very much for.
No problem. The other thing about the network, I suppose, is I've really had deep conversations with everybody who's in the guide, as a sort of reciprocal thing. So the idea is to try and grow your professional network as well, which is a big thing from your perspective. We've got around 20 vendors in the guide now. Some of them are large corporations with lots of stuff in there as well, so they're always going to be potential leads for you guys as well. So it is a really big opportunity for you to nurture and carry on those relationships with these guys, because you just, they have family members that are looking to, sell a property or looking to move. You've been, helping them with, roofing leads or whatever the case may be. It all, everywhere we go for the last 15 years, everyone raises.
So thanks.
Yes, no problem, JP. I've enjoyed being here.
Yeah, thank
3
you.
weeks.
Yeah, he's been here
3
every
weeks,
day.
JP, yeah.
Every day working. Yeah, I know. But I know it was difficult. I'm sorry.
No, it's been fantastic. I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. But yeah, so we've enjoyed him, and he's been great. His accent's obviously contagious. It's been fun. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. We encourage you guys to call it, set it up, get your branded one. It's really going to be beautiful. What a nice piece.
This is so cool.
So anyway, you're welcome, and thank you.
So you said 6 weeks is when they're gonna be done, like
Yeah,
what's the
6 weeks.
purchase?
6 weeks for sign off, so it'll probably be
Okay.
about a couple months, or
Okay.
it'll be a few months out.
Yeah. So the physical copy will be probably middle towards end of October.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you guys for coming today, and Rachel, thank you. It's great to see you.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna try. I mean, now my Thursdays are kind of opening up a little bit, so I'm hoping to make more of these meetings.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're very excited to kind of build on this and build the energy of it, because I think there's a lot we could do to help each other. And that's how we always wanted this to work. I used to create a meeting called the Quality Circle, because in Japan or China, was it China, I think, had created what's called the Quality Circle. And that's how a lot of those corporations actually elevated to become billion-dollar companies. What they did is they listened to everybody in the company. They didn't just listen to the smart people, they listened to everybody's opinion and took every piece of those that made sense and elevated to become billion-dollar companies. It's called the Quality Circle. And so I built that system a long time ago. It fell apart because unfortunately I brought Chris in to double team the teaching, and the headbutting thing just didn't work. But that's okay. At the end of the day, I'm here to rebuild it, not call it the Quality Circle anymore, but maybe just a communal training and conversation that we can have together to help elevate each other and help elevate what we do as professionals.
I agree. I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah. So thank you guys very much. Have a great day. Go
And
sell
Nick,
something.
I will be getting with you about an appointment to come get a book made.
His eyes are this big.
I'm gonna leave these here.
Oh, I'm glad I already got one from
You
you.
have any ideas of things you can go in there? Just something your clients talk about, specific to Colorado Springs, we can pop it in.